Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I am still out here in the boonies. I had to take the car to try to find a Wi-Fi access, or to just get internet access in general. Jeff Sessions. I have no love for Jeff Sessions at all. I've said Jeff Sessions needs to look into the DNC and the things that took place with regards to the primaries, with regards to the Clinton Foundation, etc., etc., etc. One of the things, or one of the dickish things, one of the reasons I don't like Jeff Sessions, or one of the current reasons, forfeit asset forfeitures. So a cop pulls you over. Hey, you have $1,000 on you. I'm going to take that money from you. Wait a minute, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, I know, but I'm going to take this money from you. I'm being pretty simplistic, but essentially a cop can take money from you without you being convicted of a crime, and oftentimes people don't get that money or those things back. If anything, the police department is incentivized to do so because it allows them to essentially fill their coffers. And that's a dickish thing to do. That's an illegal thing to do. That's a gross, disgusting thing to do. You know what's wild about this? Guess who also is backing this? Conservatives. There's some conservatives that say, hold on, this is bullshit. This is not what we say when we're talking about small government. You actually have some conservatives that actually believe in the small government thing, at least in this capacity, saying, no, it's bullshit to have the cops to be able to willy-nilly take citizens' belongings, particularly when those citizens haven't done anything. And if you can't necessarily prove those people did anything, look, it's one thing if you can associate it with a crime and you take the person to court. That's one thing. It's a whole different animal if you have some animal stopping somebody in the public and you're supposed to trust that particular person to do the right thing. I don't know why you would trust the cop to do the right thing in that case when he's incentivized not to do so. I don't know why people trust cops in general, if I'm being honest. But guess what? Guess who else is for this thing? We've arrived in an odd place in politics. We've arrived in an odd place. And I know these people say, oh, don't deal with the right. Don't deal with the right. The right is in the struggle saying, some parts of the right saying, wait a minute, this is bullshit. We don't want cops having this ability to do this. Guess who's also in bed for this? Meaning, guess who's also thinking that that asset forfeiture is just fucking awesome? That cops should be able to take stuff from civilians or from people who are minding their own business. Even if you think those people did something, that's kind of besides the point. You yourself are somewhat susceptible to the same policies that you yourself are saying it's okay for somebody else. You're thinking that this is purely related to other. This also relates to you. This also relates to you. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Jeff Sessions is the new Kamala Harris. The Democratic hopeful, the one who's been smoozing it up with the Hillary supporters or with the donors trying to get her money in order to run for 2020. Look, I've said it before that the conversation, there's a meta-narrative that goes on in politics. Yes, you have this minutia struggle, people talk about this and that in order to kind of, these tactics of sorts, to kind of get positions or whatever, to try to tar an opponent, to try to get whatever. There's a meta-narrative here, though. Understand the money in politics thing. Think of it this way. You have... What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. And I'm hoping this doesn't... This looks utterly ridiculous. The money in politics thing. You have a situation where somebody needs to maximize their profits. Meaning companies, corporations. How you doing? Meaning you have, this is going to sound slightly racist. I'm on a plantation. And my wife was like, there are black people working on the plantation. And she's like, I hope they own that land. They're not just working that land for somebody else. It's like, we've come too far, man. It's 2017. We shouldn't be working this land. Alright, that's a detour. The money in politics. You have a system that says maximize profit. I'm talking about the capitalistic system. It is a joke to believe that your political system is going to somehow function in a way that goes beyond the economic system. Those things, to some degree, are intertwined, particularly in politics, where you have taking gobs of money in order to get elected. And taking those gobs of money to get elected, you have people who say, okay, I'm giving you this money because I'm giving you this money as a political donation, but I want certain things in return for that money. You're a capitalist. That's what you're going to do. You're going to maximize your profit any way you can, even if that means going out of your sphere of business and into the political arena. If I can pay for a super PAC to pay for somebody to get in office who's going to toe my line, I'm going to put that super PAC to get that office. Because guess what? Yes, I'm putting $10 million out, but I'm going to get $1 billion back in taxes or regulations for my particular company. Now, the meta-narrative here is, if that's true, which it is, and if the meta-narrative says these people are leaning a particular way based upon the people who are paying them, what happens when you can't get elected? What happens when you no longer can get elected? Meaning, what's the situation where somebody puts up a Hillary Clinton, they put up a Donald Trump has a 40% approval rating, the assumption being that Hillary Clinton is a shoo-in because Donald Trump is a goddamn disaster, and Trump wins. Meaning, the tactics that the Democratic Party was using for the past 20, 30 years have gone bust. House, Senate, Supreme Court, you've heard me say it before, 66 out of 99 state legislatures, they've lost like 1,000 seats throughout the country. What takes place when you can no longer get elected? Meaning these right-wing Democrats who no longer toe the philosophical basis of the party. What happens? The point I'm making to you is, at some point, Democrats are going to have to deal with their plutocrats. This to people who are essentially paying them. And they're going to have to go to those people and say, look, we can't get elected. We can't get in office. We can't toe that particular line. Yes, Obamacare at that time was the best that we could do because we had to deal with our donors. We had to deal with the people who were giving us money. But you understand that we can't get elected using those policies anymore. What are you willing to give us? And continue to give us the money. Meaning the meta-narrative in this is still rich versus poor. What you're talking about is a class struggle. There are elements to this class struggle, of course, in regards to race and everything else, but those racial distinctions were schisms that were created in the society, and those schisms are embellished, particularly in times of economic stress. What we have is a situation where party members, well, people like Kamala Harris, they would look at her and they would say, yeah, she's just about right. Now, in saying just about right, they're acknowledging something of saying, okay, we think that we can get the public to buy into this much. It's almost like a business deal. What's the least amount that we can give the public and the public will be willing to accept? So under Obama, the least amount the public was willing to accept was Obamacare. Okay, these people are bitching about healthcare. Yes, this guy wants to do something about healthcare. But there are going to be limits in regards to what you can do to healthcare and continue to get our support and our cash. I hope that makes sense. Like, I'm making this point that you could come out and say, yes, we're going to do Medicare for all, but you're going to lose donations from this kind of medical establishments of sorts. Now, what you may be able to sell is, look, I need you to give me your support. I could get elected. Yes, I'm going to pass this legislation, but no, I'm not going to go too far in this particular legislation. So you're essentially having a conversation with the plutocrats to try to be this intermediary between this is the least amount we can sell to the public and continue to get their funding and their particular support. The conversation, the meta-narrative that takes place in politics is still a class struggle. Racial dynamics, all these other dynamics are sub-factors of the overarching structure of the means of production. Not just the means of production, how funds, how resources are allocated in our particular society. The people with these small numbers of people who've accrued massive amounts of profit. If those people want their interests met, they have to essentially give up something, just like you're doing some kind of advertisement to get people enticed. In this particular case, it's just in the political sphere. The politician, if he wants to get elected, needs to get that money from those people based on our current political system. And at the same token, he needs to find some way to sell that to the public. The conversations between the public, meaning the 99% and the 1%. Your politician is the conduit between that conversation. mainly because it takes money to get those people elected. If you take money out the political process, then you have a more honest and fair politics that are actually about ideas. So I'll leave it at that. Um, Kamala Harris is a train wreck. She would not get my vote. Scorched earth. You get my vote when you represent my interests. And if you're supporting asset forfeiture, meaning if you're talking about allowing some random cop on some random night to steal property of some random citizen that hasn't done a goddamn thing, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a deal breaker in any particular politician, and that particular politician would never get my support. I'll leave it at that. All right, guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks, guys.